Hello and welcome to episode 106 of the Town Hall Academy. Hey, have you ever gotten a negative online review in your business? Because we're human and mistakes happen, compound that with the ease of using the internet to express your feelings, we may get a review we're not proud of. Well, it happens. The Academy panel will go over a 5-step process and go above and beyond by sharing their personal experiences. Now here's a taste.
You just got to kind of take a breath and go, okay, what really happened here? What's about to happen? Take a moment and get the facts. It's never good to respond to a negative review right away without taking a breath and just assessing what's really happening. Once you hit enter, everybody sees that, and that's it.
Welcome, automotive aftermarketers, to a Remarkable Results Radio Town Hall Academy. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results.
Carm Capriato here. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to our 106th Town Hall Academy episode, helping you cope and manage a negative online review. You know, when faced with options for your customer's engine or transmission failure, rest assured that a remanufactured drivetrain product from Jasper Engines and Transmissions will give your customer's vehicle a new lease on life. Check out Jasper's featured engine and transmission pages at jasperengines.com. Keep in mind that every podcast episode delivers depth of story, and we go beyond the headlines. And I'm so proud of the hundreds of aftermarket professionals that have the passion to share their wisdom and stories so that all ships rise. Hey, keep in mind the power of the Remarkable Results Radio website. There's a lot there, not just every episode. Give us a surf and discover the books page, the AMI page, the photos and apps page, and even the tag cloud, among others. Let me introduce my panel of service professional shop owners: Bill Greeno, Quality Automotive and Smog in Truckee, California; Gary Pontius Jr., Toledo Auto Care, Toledo, Ohio; and Joe Hansen, Gordy's Garage, Roseville, Michigan. So you've got a negative online review. Now what? Well, here's a 5-step process we're going to discuss. Number 1, 2 negatives don't make a positive. 2, find out what the heck really happened. 3, take advantage of the learning opportunity. Number 4, finalize a resolution, respond, and over-deliver. And number 5, review with staff and move on. Besides digging into these 5 steps, we get into soliciting reviews, the 4 types that you can get, and sometimes a negative review can be an advertisement for your shop based on how you handled it. And there's so much more. Find the key talking points from this episode at remarkableresults.biz/A106. It could be a great outline for your next review meeting. Now, let's turn a negative into a positive. Two years ago, we did, I think it was our second or third week, we'd covered this topic. And it was one of the most watched and listened to, in the entire catalog. I thought about the changes that are going on with consumers and reviews. There's no doubt we should almost cover this yearly or at least every year and a half. 2 negatives don't make a positive?
I say that because, there's so many times that in the past where I'd get a review and I would read it and my blood would boil because I'm like, either this guy's crazy, this customer, or we really messed this deal up. So I would get so mad and I would respond. And then I would find out after I responded, I wouldn't hit enter, but I'd read it about 30 times in my response and none of it was going to be good. So then through our 20 group and John Waffler and that, we kind of talked this through, and it's like, you just got to kind of take a breath and go, okay, what really happened here? What's about to happen? And just take a moment and get the facts. So it's never good to respond to a negative review right away without taking a breath and just assessing what's really happening. Because once you hit enter, everybody sees that. And that's it.
Bill, I can't help but think of the book Extreme Ownership. I mean, you've got to own that negative review, right?
That's right. That's right. If you want to have any control over the situation, you've got to start by saying, I'm a part of this. I have a shop. This person came to my shop. They've come to me with their problem. And so I can reject it, which is easy to do, to figure out why I'm not responsible, or I can figure out, I can take ownership of it. And then I can follow through with Joe's process. is the best way I can say it.
Yeah, taking ownership. Totally agree with that. And then it's important to acknowledge the review and then apologize. Take the higher road, the higher ground, and then provide an explanation if necessary. So there are three things I think to always remember when you provide an explanation. Is number one, don't give excuses. Take responsibility, which is the ownership part that we're talking about, right? Be clear with why the misunderstanding occurred, and then issue an apology, and then offer advice on how to re-engage the business. So you need to keep the conversation. You need to reach out and be at least available, and try to rectify the issue if you can.
Do each of you remember the first time you got a negative review?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the worst feeling ever. Mm-hmm. You take it so personally, mm-hmm. right? Because we're like, we mean to do good, but then you get that and you're like, you just think someone just personally, and it might not even be about you, but you just feel like they personally just ripped your guts out and stomped on your heart. You're like, no, wait, this isn't what we're trying to do. We're trying to help this person out. And something went wrong. That actually, to the point where there was a point when we didn't have a lot of reviews where I wouldn't even, if I saw it come through on my phone, on your G Suite, I would look at it and go, okay, if it's a Friday or after hours, I'm not answering it. I'm not looking at it, because if it was a Friday after hours, it would ruin my entire weekend. Yeah. I would fret over it for the entire weekend. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't. And it was like, I just can't deal with it. So that's how it, when you get that, it's the worst feeling ever when you get that, if it's a negative review. Even now, we have a lot of reviews, and I think I can handle it better now if I get one, but even now I'm like, oh, come on, baby, 5-star. And I'll hit the button. I go, oh, okay, it's 5 stars. Anything better than 4 and up, I'm good for the weekend, right? It's lower than that. I had one a few months ago, and maybe I'll get into it later, and it was a 1-star, and it turned out great. But man, I remember I was in bed and I just jumped up right on the phone and I called that guy. So, but we'll get into that later.
I would love to hear the story. Please tell me about that. A 1-star got you out of bed.
I guess it did.
Bill, I saw you with this big grin when I asked that question. Tell me about your first.
My first review called me out by name. So unlike Joe's, where it was something that his shop had done, mine was a direct interaction with a customer, and what I learned from that was the primary thing was that sometimes your negative reviews can actually advocate for your shop. They can actually be an advertisement. And just a couple of examples of that is, Bill and his shop offer a 30-day free retest for failed smog inspection, emissions inspections, for those of you who aren't in California. And I came in there, and I had been traveling in the such and so for a month and a half. And I got back and I was really busy, and then I couldn't come in for another 3 weeks. And Bill had the audacity to take away my free retest. And then he thought it would be okay just to offer me a half price test. And he went on and on about how I, had done this and done that. And then finally I did tell him to pound sand. So in the end, I responded to him, and privately, I didn't make a public response. I said, thanks for taking the time to review our shop. Appreciate everything that you had to say, and left it at that, because I really did. He had anybody that reads that review knows they need to be back here within the 30 days. They know that if they're not, I'll probably throw them a little olive branch, half price. And if they're rude about it, well, then they're going to get the, invitation to go away. And sometimes that's got to be okay. You have to be okay with losing customers who work 5 times as hard to gain them, but sometimes they are going to leave. And if they're not the right customer, that's okay.
We should do an entire show on losing customers, shouldn't we? And yes, the learning curve on that. Thank you for that. Now, Joe, let's go into number 2 here of our 5-step process.
Find out what the heck really happened, right? Because I think that we have to be responsible in knowing that the real purpose of the review for like our shop is that's a gauge on how well we're doing. It's a customer satisfaction survey, if you will, right? So for me to go into that let's say the customer is just really mean and they just call them out and call people names and everything, that still doesn't mean that they're wrong. They're just not tactful, right? So it would be silly for me to go into that thinking that we're right, they're wrong. It doesn't make sense. So I have to go in neutral. I have to sit down and go, okay, what really happened here? Interview the guys at the shop. Hey, we got a review. Let's read it together. Did we leave the wheel loose? Did we misdiagnose it? Did we, really, let's just be truthful here and get the facts. Because when you do call that customer and respond, if you don't have your facts, they're going to eat you alive, and they should. So step 2 is always to just get the team together and let's find out what really happened here. And many times it's not even we didn't fix the car right or the part failed that we didn't make that we put on, but a lot of times it's communication.
Is it an opportunity, Gary, to review the processes?
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely an opportunity to learn and grow. I don't want to get ahead. I think that's Joe's next point, but it's definitely an opportunity to learn and grow. And if it's something that was a process or a breakdown in a procedure internally, then you review it or you rewrite it, whichever is applicable, and then you review it with everyone and make sure that we're all on the same page. So we prevent those things from happening.
So find out what really happened. Rally the troops. Bill, does your team care about the fact that they get grade 5s and they occasionally get a 1?
They do very much, and I make it a point to print the 5-star reviews, the 4-star reviews, all of them. But we get an overwhelming number of 5s, which they do like. And I'll bring up another point here at this stage in the conversation, and that is that I think it's really important that we solicit reviews from our customers. We have to solicit reviews, and that gives them the microphone straight away. Here you go, talk. What do you have to say? And if they're gonna have a problem, it gives you in a private setting the opportunity to take care of that first. And there's 4 kinds of reviews. There's anonymous public, known public, anonymous private, and known private. People can respond anonymously on some forums out there, publicly on some forums, known there, whether it's Facebook or Google. And then there's the private ones. And if we send them those private reviews up front, then we get the chance to actually fix the situation.
Excellent. How are you soliciting these reviews, guys? Can you help me with that?
Yeah. So first, I think we need to solicit them quickly. If we solicit them quickly, like Bill said, if there's an issue, we can handle it. But then also, I think it gives a greater response rate, and then also potentially more detailed comments, which is good for everybody. For anyone reading the reviews, also good for us. So what we do is we have a Google review card that we present to them and ask them to give us a review after each service, and we walk through it. Has little instructions on it, and then we also do send out a text also later, usually within a few hours, asking for a review, and it has a link on it that they're able to click on.
Do you use a service for that?
Currently, we are using Bolt-On for that. So currently we have done it manually as well. Works both ways, but this was a little more automated version.
Joe, are you using that kind of tactic?
Yeah, we use Bolt-On as well, and we get great results. And we've used Broadly as well in the past.
Got it.
And they do a great job as well. We had great results with that as well. But Bolt-On integrates a bit more with what we do, but they're both great products. But I'm a fan of automation without a doubt. Doing it manually is good, and it seems more personal, but it doesn't always get delivered, because when you get busy, it's just like anything. Promotions, they go real good, then they go down. The inconsistency will kill it. So being consistent and maybe a little less personal, if you will, like handing a card out or whatever, it gets better results long term, I believe. So,
Bill, what are you using are you using anything to reach out?
Yeah, I use the Kukui function on my website, and it's wonderful. Really, really great foundation for those reviews. And then what I do is after I collect a week or so, sometimes I'm not that on it, a month or so of reviews, I have a message that I'll send out to all those folks that has the same sort of thing that Gary has with his cards, which I think is a great idea. And it is a thank you for the response, and then it instructs them how, if they're willing, to go and give us a Google or a Yelp review, if they are so willing to make it public.
Hey, I'm with Brian Weeks from ATC Auto Center. Brian, why Jasper Engines and Transmissions?
So I think Jasper, the reason why we chose to deal primarily with Jasper is the quality of the product and the people. I know that it is a associate-owned company, but it's more about the people. They do what they do in this industry that is tough, and they stay on top of the cutting-edge engineering, changing and maybe developing ways around known problems and issues.
So they're adding value. They're making things better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're taking a situation that you may have a common failure with and going in, taking it apart, going through the engineering, the R&D department, and saying, okay, how can we make this better? And then from that standpoint, it comes to us that at the end of the day, the end user gets much more value for the dollar that they spend.
Hey, Brian, thanks for your time.
Carm, thank you.
Hey, let's jump into number 3, Joseph. I guess I stole a little thunder, Gary, when we were talking about the learning curve from a review. Let's jump into that.
So taking advantage of the learning opportunity. And yeah, it's just that. I mean, at this point, we'll know if we were right or if we were wrong. But that's a great time, like you had mentioned, to review your processes. Like I said, most of the negative reviews or not so great reviews come from communication issues, not so much from fixing the car right or part failure. But it comes from not getting the right description at the counter. And finding out enough information on why is this customer here? That car runs bad when? It makes that noise when? Does it do it, when it's hot, when it's cold? All of that kind of stuff. So I find that for us, it's usually we can go back to our SOPs, our operating procedures, and say, okay, this is where we messed up. Because let's be real. Let's say they didn't fix the car right. If you have an SOP that you're supposed to go test drive the cars afterwards and wash them, did we do that? Because if we did, then the car would probably be fixed right. We would have caught that, right? So all these things, when you're talking it over with the team, that's what I base it on. It's not just like, it's not finger pointing. It's okay. Let's look at our procedures and where did we fail? Because if we did fail and it's not in our procedure, let's write the procedure so we don't fail next time.
I love that. When I started bringing the reviews to my staff, especially the negative reviews, it was very difficult for them to take ownership. And that's what led me. Our book study this year, we do one every year, was Extreme Ownership, the book. And just talking about how you can fully control the situation. And Extreme Ownership's written by Jocko, they're Navy SEALs. And their whole premise is that in warfare, if you don't own it, you've lost control. And this is a very small little piece of war that we have in our businesses every day. So sharing that with the staff has given them grounds and a path to not only learn from, but to change the conversation. And just what Joe said, it gives us the opportunity most often to change our standard operating procedures. Okay, if this happened, then how do we get out in front of it next time? How do we stop this from happening? We had a quick story, a loaner car issue. We loaned a car to a woman and she took it for a few days and she drove in excess of 300 miles. It was an emergency. She came in. Oh my gosh, my car. Wow. This loaner just came back. We hadn't had a moment to look at it. First failure. It wasn't full of gas. Second failure. She took it, drove 300 miles, had to fill it up. She filled it up all the way, came in, returned the car, wanted all the money for filling up the car. My manager told her, well, I can give you the difference of what you've driven. You've driven 300 miles. And It's back to where it was when you left. So you really just used your gas. Very logical explanation. She was irate. Tried to give her money. I tried to give her money back after that. There was no collecting her back. So I brought it to the staff. How can we learn from this? And for better or for worse, however you handle your loaners, that's up to you. But our staff decided that in the future, we'll just tell the folks you're responsible for the gas that you use. It's an Audi. It uses premium gas. So just please keep that in mind. Whether they fill it up or not, there's no penalty. But at least now there's a standard operating procedure to keep that person from being irate when they go and put gas in it and aren't offered a refill. A refund.
How many times you think it out completely, and then the real world hits you upside the head, and situations you never thought about happened, and then when you sit down with a team, it's just only logical that you should do this.
Absolutely, and don't let a loaner car out without at least going and opening the door.
And Bill, I love the collaborative approach that you had there. To coming up with the solution together, because we're talking about ownership. When you come up with the solutions together, they buy into it and take ownership on the solution as well. So that's awesome.
Excellent, guys. By the way, Extreme Ownership is by Jocko Willink. Interesting name, both Jocko and Willink, and Leif Babin. The book is on my books page on the website, and every book we talk about on the show will always make it to the books page. There may be 30 of them plus there now. Leaders or readers. I'm so glad. I mean, it's exciting, Bill. You made the book part of your culture in the business.
Yeah, we buy one every year. I buy a book on tape for the guys. They listen to it in the shop. And then currently, we're actually spending our Friday meetings reviewing one chapter at a time as a group and really doing it as a book club.
I thought I knew what ownership was until I read that book. That was a life changer for me. Hey, Joe, let's take on. We did 3, didn't we? Yes.
We did.
Step number. Wow, we're really rocking through this thing. Step number 4.
So finalize a resolution, respond, and then over deliver. So at this point, kind of like what Gary alluded to, the team should have pretty much bought into what happened, right? It's buy-in, so that we're all on the same page and find out, okay, what are we going to do now to satisfy this customer, or at least communicate with the customer. And for me, what I found is that when it's time to respond to that review, it doesn't need to be lengthy. Although I have some lengthy responses, that was in my heated days, but I'm healed.
Wait, what happened? Well, how did you heal?
Well, they don't work if you you get nothing out of it. Mm-hmm. Like you get a mad customer and probably other people that read it, they're like, this guy's crazy. But the finalize a resolution is always start out with just, I am sorry you had a bad experience. And honestly, I'm stealing that from John Waffler from our 20 group. I'm sorry you had a bad experience, because no matter if you're right or you're wrong, they had a bad experience because they're writing this bad review, right? And it just kind of breaks the ice. Hey, I'm sorry you had a bad experience. What can we do to make it better? Or I understand that we failed. Like for one example, we had one where we had a car come in and, it was really busy, and I don't even remember the details. It was a couple years ago, and the guy went across the street. We're from a McDonald's. There's a McDonald's across the street, and he was here for an oil service. So he dropped it off. He went over there, came back an hour and a half later. The car never moved. It never moved. He didn't say anything either, though. He just said, "Hey, can I get my keys?" And another advisor handed him the keys. He left. We didn't hear from him until he put a review online saying these idiots didn't even know my car was there, and And it was just like he was right. I mean, I had no comeback to that because we screwed up. So what do? I'm sorry you had a bad experience. We dropped the ball completely. This is what happened, even though you probably don't care. And we apologize if there's anything we do in the future. We'll do our best. Now, that guy's not coming back. I know that. But to another customer reading that response, they're thinking they screwed up, and we've all screwed up. And okay. They're not going to not come to me probably because of that. They might not come to me because of that either, but it's not going to be a plus. It's not going to be I'm not going there because that guy forgot to bring the car in, right? Because it was a nice response. So I think that you got to admit when you're wrong and just lay it out there. It's okay, because we're going to screw up.
Joe, would you have said to the guy, listen, we are totally guilty here. Please come in. Let us do this for you. No charge.
I think I did, actually. I'm not positive. I'd have to go look at it, but I think I might have even done that. Knowing me, I probably would have given them 2. And then the other is once you respond to the customer, now what does that mean? Does that mean that we're just going to type a response, I hit enter and hide behind the internet like most do when they put a negative review? Or are we going to call that person? So I call and I say, hey, and it's so funny because I, like the one I was telling you about, the one guy got a bad review. It was a Saturday morning. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what the heck? So I just went on my thing, looked up the customer's phone number from my phone, called them up, say, hey, this is Joe from Gordy's Garage. You have a second to talk. And whenever you do that, they're so caught off guard. There's always a delay. They're like, like they can't believe I'm calling, right? And then I walked through it with this gentleman, and it was something with an alignment and this and that. And I said, well, I'm curious, how much did you pay for that alignment? And they gave me the price, and I said, okay. So I got done talking to him, and he says, listen, I had a bad day that day. Let me just take this review down. I said, okay, that's fine. So I got off the phone with him, and I looked at his address. I went to his house, put the check in the mailbox for how much he told me inadvertently he paid. Well, then he called me back the next time going, I can't believe you did that. So that's what I'm saying. When you say, give her a resolution, how are you going to respond? And then over deliver on whatever that is that you're going to do, if the customer is legitimately correct in what they're saying. So
you left my panel speechless.
Yeah, I had all kinds of things I wanted to say until he threw that last part in there, and then he just blew my mind. That's amazing.
I mean, talk about total ownership and then going above and beyond. You know what? Well, if we did more of that, if everyone in our industry did more of that, think of what would happen to the image that we so strongly fight for.
What I was thinking in process up to the part where Joe blew everybody's mind was using those, the opportunities when someone's not coming back and you have screwed up. I really like to use that opportunity to write an advertisement about the shop, and to let people know what we've done to fix that situation. To come out in the response publicly and say, he's absolutely right. We screwed this up. We've gotten together as a team, and here's how we've decided to move forward to see to it that this never happens again. Thank you for letting us know this and for pointing out this hole in our system and process.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, Bill. I do the same thing as I respond, just like Joe was talking about. I usually a lot of times work in some form of, we strive to provide good quality repair with honesty and integrity, and obviously we've dropped the ball at this time. So I try to put in either some of our core values or something like that without it being demeaning or without it being defensive, because you don't want to come across defensive. But I do use it as a little bit of an advertisement for us and how we strive to be and the company we try to have.
Yeah, and one of the things that we need to talk about here today is with the negative reviews, the ones that where people are just straight lying, right? Where there's no validity, there's no accountability because it's anonymous. You may not even know who they are. How do you respond to those? And that's exactly how I think we should respond to those. Is don't talk about what they want to talk about. Talk about what you want to talk about. Oh, these guys, they killed my dog and they set my car on fire and they pushed it out into the road and then they beat me up. I'm hyperbole to make a point here. These exaggerated fallacies that people throw in our directions at times. Well, how do you respond to that? Thank you so much for the review. It's a policy at Quality Automotive and Smog that we never kill dogs. We love dogs. In fact, we support the dog shelter in town. We are a volunteer fire department, volunteers at the fire department. We do, we put forward the things that we want to talk about, rather than, and we don't tell them they're wrong. We don't tell them that they're blowing smoke and must have made this up out of, thin air. We just talk about what we want to talk about.
Are there people out there that just want to do this?
Some. I think some. I think it's more rare, right? So I think too that when someone writes like I've gotten those and it's like, I don't know who, like they have goofy names and, their cars, they make this weird story up and it's like, really? I think that there's two things about that. Number one, the general public is not stupid. So when they're reading the reviews, they can kind of see, okay, this is not normal. And what do they base normal on is based on how well of a job we did at acquiring good reviews. So if you have 50 good reviews and then there's this one star and, someone's dog got killed, right? Or their car was on fire. We've had that. That's funny you said that. And then it's like, well, this doesn't line up with what the rest are. So the better job we do at the positive side and focusing all our energy on that, then like so we just those other ones just kind of blow them off, talk what we want to talk about, and the public will know.
What would motivate you to write a negative online review? So you go to a restaurant and you really had a bad experience and you said, you know what, I got to tell the world about this. Or would you, as individuals and hardworking small businessmen, say, listen, everybody's got their good and bad days?
It would take a lot for me to bash somebody because, like you said, we get it and we're here. We know it can mess up. I think the thing that would make me do it is if someone made me feel like crap, right? Like if they were just mean, that'd be different. But if they burnt my, my hamburger or something, okay, whatever, I can get another hamburger.
Yeah. The decks are stacked against us as brick and mortars. Customer service has become the standard, high levels of customer service. And the reviews are only written about brick and mortars. You don't see people reviewing Amazon. You don't see people and the small brick and mortars. Nobody's reading reviews on Macy's, Nordstrom's. It's really, it's us. And you can deliver a great product 10 times to the same customer and one time. And our industry is crazy because we can deliver for years. And I'm sure Joe and Gary can relate to this one. You can have a customer that's been your customer for 10 years. You've known them for 20. They end up at a dealership over the weekend. This just happened. The dealership says, oh my gosh, you need this 120,000 mile service. The customer calls back. I can't believe that you guys haven't been taking care of my car. You weren't due for that until December. Boy, oh boy, I'd like to see what they did. But they're so quick to turn. It's just like that. So for me to write a review for someone else without following the channels, if I have a bad burger, I'm just going to probably review them with my feet, and not go back. If I've had a bad service experience, then I'm going to give them the opportunity to make that right. And I mean, as small business owners, I'm sure we're probably the easiest customers and the best at getting out in front of situations and helping them to make it right before they really screw it up.
Got it. I want to thank Mary Ann Croce, who has contributed greatly to the podcast and the Town Hall Academy. She's on with us today. She says, great stuff. We do the same. You would be surprised. Some customers come in because of how you respond to a negative review. And that's why we're here. We're here so that we can turn things around. Okay. You got anyone here buy anything on Amazon? Okay. All right. Me too. I seem to get bombarded from companies that want to let me do a review for them. And it just seems to me that I just don't have the time to do that. And so when you get a good review, when you get a 5 and you get a 1, you guys must celebrate in both cases, right? Because you want to be able, you got a great opportunity to fix the 5. But do you guys ever do major cake break celebrations every time you get a 5?
We do celebrate.
Yeah, we celebrate. We talk about it for sure. I think that's important because, I mean, I know the topic of this is how to handle negative reviews, the podcast, but boy, those positive reviews are, those are where it's at. So these guys need to know that they're doing such an amazing job by getting all these. I mean, how you get so many 5 stars compared to a negative one. It almost seems silly we spend time on it, but we have to, obviously. But those 5s are in it. I mean, and then if you pull the team together in your bi-weekly meetings or however you do them and you read it, and it's hey, Jay's got a customer that responded and this is what they said. And that guy's on cloud 9. I think other guys are more confident in his sales ability. I mean, everything, right? So it's, you got to celebrate those wins like that.
And then the positivity just grows, and I think it perpetuates better service, better experience. Just perpetuates it all. I think another thing, that back to the burnt burger, because I had a burnt burger. Not just actually, it was for my birthday of all days. We went out for burgers to this place that we've gone to. Love their. I mean, I've always said this is the best burger around. So I get mine. And I'm telling you what, it is burnt and it's about that thick. And I was shocked because it was always great. And so the lady come up and one thing, I'm always respectful, but I'm also obviously always honest. And she said, how's everyone's burgers and stuff? And I said, honestly, mine's not very good. This is the worst one I've ever had. And she apologized. She went and had a new burger made. And then didn't charge me. So my point is, I think one way we can help prevent also negative reviews is to empower our people to recover quickly, and then train them to recover quickly at the counter. So when something like that happens, you give them the oil change free, or you give them, whatever it is, you do something to try to rectify the situation before they walk out the door. But empowering and educating our people, I think, is important with that.
I love what Gary just said and what Joe said earlier that blew our minds about the over deliver. Years ago, I was trained in a program called Legendary Service, and Legendary Service was a program that was written for corporations that was all about, how do you make raving fans, to reference another more modern concept. But it was taking whatever it was and giving them something that people will talk about, and it's not just here's an oil change and the next one's free. It's here's an oil change and here's a coupon for a burger at Gary's favorite burger restaurant, or for his burger restaurant to give a free oil change at Gary's shop.
Yeah, that's the over and above.
And different.
Yes, that's what I like about it. It's non-industry related. I love giving gifts to our customers that are non-related to our industry. So a Starbucks card, a Cold Stone card, whatever it is, it's something non-related. I love doing that when we have opportunities.
Gary, do you have a little stash, a drawer of those, $10 or $25 gift cards just for that reason?
We do keep them on hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I love giving bottles of wine as gifts or bottles of whiskey as gifts, because then every time the person goes for a drink, they think about you. You sign your name on it. What would it be like if we kept a case of wine in our shop? Well, that might be a bad idea. But if we kept a case of wine in our shop, and when a customer had a great or a bad experience, we signed it from the staff. I'm making this up. I've never done it, and it gave the customer
That's a great idea.
All of our names signed on it. I don't know.
It could be boxes of candy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Whitman sampler cost you $10 or on sale for $5.
Yeah. Bag of jerky for the paleo people. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a similar experience. I live in the country. There's a couple of really great country bars, and I go often to this one place, exceptional service, great food. And one day I was there, Ann and I, for 20 minutes, and I didn't get waited on. I would not have written a negative online review, but they said, hey, listen, we're not going to charge you for your beers tonight. They did something right away. So here's my question to you. Knowing that, you have a loyal customer, comes in all the time, you goofed somehow. It's always important to raise your hand and says, listen, we goofed. We're sorry. We did something wrong. Preventing the fact that there could have been a negative online review had you ignored it. Are you proactive in trying to solve issues that don't become big and overblown?
Absolutely. Yeah, from the onboarding process with any new advisor or technician, really, but I empower all of our people, and I set up the guidelines or the guardrails, like I like to say, that kind of gives them the parameters to work within, but I empower them all. I would much rather correct it on the front side than to have to deal with it on the back side.
Oh yeah. Well, once it reaches the owner, holy cow, all bets are off. I love the Ritz Carlton. We have a Ritz here in town, and my wife said something. She said, "Oh, we need to go up to the Ritz for dinner. I have a free dinner up there because they lost my keys at the valet." Of course, I sent her up there with my 1969 Impala. They lost those keys.
Oh, no.
Great. That's an easily duplicated key. But anyway, I said, it's been 4 months. Do you even know the guy's name? No. I said, well, then how are we going to collect on that dinner? She said, every employee at the Ritz has $1,000 per customer that they can use to make a situation right. So she said, all we have to do is show up and tell him what happened, and he'll remember. We'll be fine.
That's crazy.
Well, I'm glad we have taken this approach to try to be proactive so that we don't have to manage negative online reviews. Try to make them not happen. A comment here from Tom Ham. Did you ever let another shop owner write the reply to a negative review because he's not as emotionally involved?
There's a number of people out there that will take care of reviews for you. If you feel like you just can't respond properly to reviews, Rockstar Marketing has that as one of their products. You can use them, and they'll take care of those reviews for you, and you can they'll ask you questions about who you are and how you want the responses guided, and they'll take care of it. I'd like to take a kind of a left turn on this too, and one of the policies that I have in my shop and that I've shared in the past, and it gets people's hackles up, so it's always a good conversation piece, is not apologizing. And the reason, there's a couple reasons. Number one is, when you're not wrong and you haven't done anything wrong, apologizing can give credence to the complaint. You're going to deal with it anyway. You're going to take care of the customer anyway, but don't apologize, because now you're validating something that may not need to be validated, especially if you're going to just provide great service anyway. Don't apologize even if you're wrong, sometimes just because you're going to add flame or add fuel to the fire. And we so often verbally, we respond, I'm sorry, right away every time, right? Oh, I'm sorry. It's just the way we're wired. However, if we're writing a response to a review, we will most often begin with what? Thank you. So as we respond verbally, it's very important that we begin with thank you and not I'm sorry. And then to follow through the whole process, you can say so many things other than I'm sorry. You can say, you're right. You can say, we really screwed this up. Let me take care of it. Let me tell you how. I'm sorry keeps you in the mire. If you've landed in the mud pit with the customer and you want to get out of the mud pit, you've got to focus on how you're going to get out of the mud pit. When you say, I'm sorry, you just sink deeper into the mud pit and you actually bring them down with you. And so what I train my staff to do is they can certainly validate the situation if we've done something wrong. However, it's so easy, it's sort of like saying, or I don't know what to say next. So I'll say, or I'll say, I'm sorry. So focusing the whole conversation towards whatever we're going to do to fix the situation is really where I want my staff to go. And every time they say, I'm sorry, I see the fan on the flames building that fire up. So just a warning there about the apology. And every book you read will tell you to apologize. And I'm going to take the opposite approach.
I love the idea of thank you. And here's my thought about that. If you start to write down and the first words out of your mouth are thank you, you almost don't have I'm sorry in you to write next. It almost buffers it, Bill. Do you find that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, like I said, I'm sorry is it's such a fallback. It's just something to say because you don't know what else to say. How about silence? How about just thank you?
Yeah, silence is a pretty darn powerful tool, by the way, too. And, if I put my hands up and I say, hey, listen, we goofed, is that an I'm sorry?
It validates them and it shows that you take ownership. And now they're waiting for the other foot to fall. Okay, what's he going to do? They're interested in you now. What are you going to do? How are you going to take care of it? I'm sorry is almost like I'm not going to do anything for you. I mean, just to take it to another prickly place. I'm sorry. No, you're not. Or I'm sorry. You're shit out of luck. Sorry. You're out of luck.
We can accept that. Hey, the fifth point, and we did cover it, but I just wanted to actually state it, was review with staff and move on. Joe, you really want to praise the people when you get a 5, and you want to rally the troops, as you said earlier.
For sure. And then if there is an issue where you were wrong and the staff was wrong, I think that as much as it is important to praise them for the good ones, when they goof up, forgive them so that they're not afraid. Because think about if somebody is afraid of getting another review because they think they're going to do something bad, they're not going to ask for that review. So we got to make sure that when they are wrong, that we do review the process. And then we say, great, you know what? I'm confident we're going to do a great job next time. Let's kill it. Let's go out and make it happen now. Great job. Proud of you. We got this one, but look at the other 165 that are amazing reviews. So this is a bump in the road. Let's move on. Good job.
Okay, let's take this ending time to either tell your favorite story, to finish off any of your own talking points, but also, Joe, your first 1-star review. You had said, I got to tell you that story later about my first 1-star review.
Well, it was just, I kind of summarized it already, but it was, I don't even remember exactly all the details on it other than how it made me feel. It was just like, my gosh, I can't handle that. So now it's to the point where like I said, I'll answer reviews on a Friday. I don't care now because I know how to handle it. But that first 1-star review sucked. It was terrible. It was personal. That's the thing. I guess the lesson would be is as much as we say, don't take it personal, because if you let that bother you and lag on you, you're not going to perform. You're not going to do well. And you're not going to be able to do your job, and lead and move on and repair. If you're sitting there dwelling on it and taking it personally, it's not, they don't know me. I didn't fix their car. Something happened here, or they don't know who I am. It's just, they had a bad experience or something went wrong. It's not personal. So, when you do get those reviews, you just gotta suck it up, be a grown up and professional and move on and fix it.
Bill, final thoughts?
Yeah, I really love Joe's 5-step. 2 negatives don't make a positive. Find out what the heck really happened. I like that. Take advantage of the learning opportunity, finalize a resolution, and move on. Those are great. It's a perfect and succinct way of looking at it. He makes no apologies in there. He does take ownership. I think if I were to summarize it into 3, it would be own it, learn from it what you can, change policies and standard operating procedures as needed. We can get out in front of these things, whether we've done something wrong or we haven't done something wrong. Either way, there's always a way to get out in front of whatever it was. If the customer is unreasonable, how do we educate customers to be reasonable in the future? If we did something wrong, how do we avoid not bringing the customer's car in for an hour and a half in the future? There's always something to learn, and there's always a way to get out in front of it so it doesn't happen again, or at least to reduce the chance of it.
Thanks so much, Bill. How about you, Gary? Final words?
Yeah, final word, just, the reviews are just so important, and that's why we're talking about this and responding to either, we're talking about negative reviews, but 88% of consumers out there trust online reviews as much as they do a personal recommendation. So they speak volumes. So respond to positive ones as well as negative ones, both. We've had a customer come into one of our locations just a few weeks ago, and one of the reasons he came in, he said that I came in because you responded to the negative reviews. And so what was funny is that about a week ago, I was starting to plan a summer vacation for a family. And I'm looking at a place to stay, and I'm reading through their reviews like we do, right? And they did not respond. It was so obvious that they did not respond to the negative reviews. It was like positive response, negative nothing, positive response. And it was just like, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. And so it was just that. It's just important that we respond to the good ones as well as the bad ones, and reviews hold a lot of weight today for people.
Responding to the positive reviews is important, and what Gary said, that I've had so many people say, I came there because of the fact that you responded to them, but it's important to respond to the positive reviews right away too. Timing is everything. So
yes,
you get it, respond to it right away. There's positive ones don't take much thought.
Great piece of advice. Timing, right? We didn't cover that, but yeah, just don't let it lag out there.
No.
Handle it right away. Well, wow. Handling a negative online review. We kind of tossed it up here at the end about, what to do with positives. Thanks so much to Bill Greeno, Quality Automotive in Smog, Truckee, California. Thanks so much, Bill. And Gary Pontius Jr., Toledo Auto Care in Toledo, Ohio.
Thanks,
and Joe Hansen from Gordy's Garage in Roseville, Michigan. Guys, well done. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.